Coming up on This Week in Computer Hardware, Microsoft Surface Book, Dell's XPS 15, and more new Skylake laptops. Roku 4, Amazon Fire tablets, building a new testbed, on-die water cooling, and more. It's all coming up next on Twitch.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twitch.
Bandwidth for Twitch is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware, episode 336, recorded October 8th, 2015. How about that Surface?
This episode of This Week in Computer Hardware is brought to you by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost, automated investment service that is the most sophisticated way for you to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/Twitch to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/Twitch. And by Whole Home. Whole Home is more than a smart thermostat. It's a home energy controller that helps you save money and displays your energy use in real time. For a 30% discount, visit wholehome.com/twit.
Welcome to Twitch, This Week in Computer Hardware, Twitch's weekly show that aims to bring you the most useful, most informative, most engaging, most charming, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking at Ryan Shrout, the most attractive hardware news in the industry. Some might argue, but I'm putting my money on Shrout over Kyle or any of a number of other hardware professionals.
Yeah, no, I mean, if that's the direct comparison, I'll go yes. But before that, I was going to go no. But
no.
But yeah. Hopefully he hears this. He'll come back at us.
He will. Who knew what Microsoft was brewing? I mean, okay, a couple of Lumia phones, 950, 950 XL, they needed somewhere for the universal apps to go on the mobile platform, which may be cruel, but I think a fair statement. The Band 2, $250 for something that almost works as well as a Pebble. It probably works better than a Pebble. Probably works as well as a Pebble, but $250 for something. That's like a smartwatch price for something that doesn't do a lot of smartwatch features. And then we get to the MS Pro 4 and the Surface Book. And the crowd went wild. Microsoft Pro 4, I think, is let's start with the Surface Book, the ultimate laptop. And I probably did a really horrible job of explaining this. If you could drag that to the 360-degree view, it's crazy because it's a tablet. It is conjoined to a very hefty keyboard. So the Surface Pro 4 weighs in with the keyboard at about 2.3-ish pounds. The book weighs in at about 3.5 pounds, in part because it has a whole bunch of stuff going on in that keyboard. Norm over at Tested got hands-on with the keyboard, said they are a big improvement over the previous keyboards. NVIDIA graphics are optional, 256 gigabytes, and it looks like a dual-core Skylake on the books. Quad-core, I believe, processors on, and I have to double-check this on the Pro 4, but you can get, it's crazy, they're talking about 12 hours battery life and 1 terabyte hard drive and Core i7 on the Surface Pro 4, and then you have optional NVIDIA graphics and dual-core 4-thread processors on the book. The book, everybody who's been kind of near the book really says it's nice. I wish it was a full quad-core processor in the worst possible way. I wish they had 1 terabyte hard drive options, not that I can afford one for a laptop. And the joint is supposed to be fantastically well-designed. Apparently, like electronically triggered magnets to release the tablet from the base so you can pull it off, turn it around, put it back on. The joint is supposed to be extremely well-engineered. We'll find out how well it holds up over the next couple of years. Right. Both tablets end up being about 267 pixels per inch. The book is a 13.5-inch, 3,000 by 2,000 pixel screen, and then it's like 2,700-ish by something, another 3:2 ratio on the Surface Pro 4, which is upgradable, user upgradable to 16 gigabytes or up to a 1 terabyte hard drive.
Wait, did they actually say that, user upgradable?
I was told that it was user upgradable, not by Microsoft. Okay. But my understanding is that the memory is not soldered to the surface of the device. If I am wrong, I'm going to be eating a lot of crow or sheep or whatever people eat these days. It's The touchpad's actually usable on the keyboards now. The keyboards have been improved. The screens look like they're really nice. They're running Windows 10 Pro. They have some decent memory options. I'm kind of stoked.
Yeah,
I
I think the Surface Book 3 was kind of the surprising thing, right? And actually, honestly, the first thing I saw from either of these devices, I kind of came in around lunch that day, was the kind of videos that Microsoft made for both of them. Both very well produced, well made, kind of hype videos, I guess, if you will. And when they first started showing the Surface Book, I didn't know that it was a 2-in-1, and was legitimately surprised when in the video halfway through it kind of separated and showed that it was a tablet with a dock integrated on it. It looks to be incredibly well designed, and I really do. I have a lot of questions about the discrete GPU implementation. That's kind of what I'm most interested in, I guess.
They're beyond super vague about that. It's an optional upgrade, and
Yeah.
we should also point out that the Book is an expensive laptop.
It is.
It is not cheap by anybody's standards. You know,
it starts at $14.99. It starts at $16.99, I think, if you want to get the GPU, the discrete GPU option, which I guess we should just like put it out there. The discrete GPU option is a NVIDIA GeForce GTX GPU that we know nothing about other than it's based on Maxwell, and it has a 1 gig frame buffer. It has 1 gig of memory on it, which is rather low. The only other thing I was able to kind of deduce from the specifications and stuff that Microsoft put out was that the model that doesn't ship with the GPU, the discrete GPU, has a 35-watt charger, and the model that does has a 65-watt charger. So in theory, that tells you we're probably looking at a 20 to 25, maybe 30-watt GPU that's actually going into that, into the actual keyboard dock part of it. But if you look through some of the current ones that are out there, like NVIDIA's statement to us was incredibly vague about, it's not comparable to any other current 900M based GPUs. And if you want to know anything about performance, you need to contact Microsoft, right? So it's really odd. They're not talking about, NVIDIA's not talking anything about what this GPU is. Microsoft's not talking about what this GPU is. Obviously, once people get their hands on it, we'll be able to figure it all out. So I don't really understand the secrecy behind it. And then the reasoning behind it is kind of interesting as well. As you mentioned, these are all dual-core hyper-threaded processors. They're all 15-watt CPUs. The processor hardware is all on the tablet and the screen part of it. And then the base holds a lot of battery and this discrete GPU if you get that as an option. So my questions are, is battery life different? Even if battery life will obviously be different if you're using GPU intensive tasks or GPU based tasks. But if you're just using it for normal stuff, is the battery life on the version with the NVIDIA GPU less than that, than the one without it? And then what performance advantage you actually get from using it? Because if you're talking about a very small, low power 1 gigabyte frame buffer GPU, I'm curious how much it actually adds to the experience of the device, whether it be for gaming or OpenCL-based applications or Photoshop, Premiere, any of that kind of stuff that may take advantage of it. I just don't understand its integration yet, and not knowing anything about the GPU makes that more difficult, I guess, like more obvious that we don't really understand anything about what it is. The only thing I can think of, we'll talk about the Surface Pro 4 as well, but the Surface Pro 4 has an option for Iris graphics in it, which is the version that has 64 megs of EDRAM or L4 cache, whatever you want to call it, on the processor. The Surface Book does not have that option, and so maybe to kind of equalize total GPU performance capability between the two products, they needed a discrete GPU in it. And because of the separation of the keyboard dock and the tablet, they were able to, well, okay, if we don't want to put a 15-watt part with Iris in the tablet part of it itself because we're making this thinner and lighter. We'll cheat a little bit by putting it in the keyboard dock, and then, it's not affecting, heat or thermals or skin temperatures or performance or power consumption, I guess, when you're in tablet only mode. So I don't know. It's the only thing I can come up with, but it's an interesting problem, I guess. Thought process at this point. I love the design though. Like I'm very intrigued by it. We ordered one of each of these devices yesterday to get in for testing because Microsoft doesn't seed us with any of this stuff. So I'm really interested to see kind of how these two devices compare, and then if they kind of hold up as flagship products like Microsoft tends to think they will. But any thoughts on the Surface 4 in particular, other than it's just kind of an upgraded Surface Pro 3?
Yeah, well, I mean, the specs look good. The performance should be a nice improvement. You know, I love the fact that like I was specking out sort of like the amount of memory it'll handle and stuff, which I thought was fantastic. It's interesting to, you know, I part of the biggest thought I had was like, wow, you know, how do, you know, Dell and HP and Asus and Acer and everybody else feel about this? Because it's a, you know, it's an I was surprised they released the Surface Book. You know, it's funny because the Pro 4 will, you know, it's a curious split, right? Because obviously there's the sort of keyboard and the discrete graphics in the keyboard, but it feels like the more powerful processors are available in the, you know, the largest hard drives, the more powerful processors are available in the Pro 4. But the discrete GPU is available in the book.
Surface Book.
Yeah. Are they doing quad core processors?
Nope. All of these are dual core hyper-threaded parts. They're all 15 watt Skylake processors that either have the Intel HD 520, which is kind of your standard graphics, or you have the Iris 540, which is the kind of the lowest end version of Iris graphics with that 64 megs of EDRAM on it. Yeah. So I was hoping there'd be like an actual quad core part available in this, but Intel doesn't have one of those in the 15 watt time frame or in the 15 watt landscape, I guess. So that's kind of what they were restricted to.
All right. Well, I suppose that's reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, both the Surface Pro and the Book, they have new Surface pens that they claim to be much improved. My favorite part about it is that they now attach to the devices through magnets as opposed to an elastic loop, which is what the Surface Pro 3 had. It seemed kind of not fitting for the rest. Not fitting for the rest of the device, I guess. This looks a little bit more interesting. So now you've got that, and you've got the iPad Pros coming out in November as well. Both of these devices will ship, arriving October 26th, I think, is what the first orders will come out at. So
cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested. I'm pretty interested to get my hands on them.
The kind of a big thing for, you know, I carry an older Dell XPS 13. Ryan carries a modern, a recent, a 2016, 2015 XPS 13 with the Infinity Edge display. And Dell announced this week an XPS 15 laptop, again with the Infinity Edge display. So it's a refresh. It's been a little while in coming. Optional 4K resolution. It basically looks like a blown up version of the XPS 13. It is... you know, basically because they've reduced the bezel size on there, you're talking about the idea is that you've got a 15-inch display in the space that a 14-inch laptop would take up. You know, Skylake mobile processors, Core i3-6100H, 6300HQ, and the Core i7-6700HQ. Optional GTX 960M GPU, 8 gigabytes of DDR RAM standard, and brace for your 32 gigabytes at the top end, which is fantastic if you are a Photoshop jockey or a Premiere genius. So you can get a decent Core i7 6700 and 32 gigabytes of RAM in what amounts to a 3.9-pound package with a 15-inch screen. That, I think, is fantastic. They started on sale on the 8th, or today, basically, and the prices start at $999. So, and as if that wasn't enough, there's this entry on the rundown. More Windows 10 Skylake parts coming. October 7th, HP. October 8th, Dell. October 9th, Asus. October 12th, Acer. October 13th, Toshiba. And October 19th, Lenovo. So is it wrong of me to suggest that, boy, Microsoft really kind of stuck it to almost all of their partners, except for HP, by announcing their giant Premier laptop before anybody else, except for maybe HP?
Yeah, it's a really curious thing. Like, I don't know if this has happened in the past where you have this kind of templated out schedule. Like these dates came from a Microsoft blog post, right? Like here's when HP is going to announce. Here's when Dell, Asus, Acer, Toshiba, Lenovo. And yeah, it is kind of interesting because unless something really shocking comes up, the most interesting stuff is the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 and the Surface Book. I don't think they'll be the best selling. I don't think that's really what Microsoft's target is for those products, is to sell millions of them or whatever, like Dell and Asus and Lenovo and those guys tend to do for their flagships. So Dell's was today. They announced the XPS 15 you talked about, which I'm interested to see. They also announced an update to the XPS 13, which is basically the same form factor with Skylake and Thunderbolt 3 support and USB 3.1 support, which is nice. And then they announced the XPS 12 as well, which is actually a 2-in-1 convertible. Kind of like the Surface Book, I guess. We'll see. I don't really know what the similarities are. But the XPS 15 basically, as you said, kind of blows up the XPS 13. And I may find that more interesting. Like if the keyboard has a little bit more throw in the key presses, the screen will be a little bit bigger. Maybe you don't have to do as much Windows scaling in the 1080p version of that. That might be helpful. It still has the poor location for the webcam. We did like a video call yesterday with 4 or 5 people, and I just didn't turn on the webcam because I decided I didn't want the webcam to look up my nose really through the entire conference. So we just didn't do that. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty interested to see what everybody has. Like now we know what Dell's announced. I know Asus has an event tomorrow in San Francisco. They're going to announce all their stuff. Acer has been making really good notebooks recently, and we know a little bit about what Lenovo has planned for Skylake as well. So November will be the month to buy laptops, right? If you're looking for a new laptop, November is going to be that month. Once all of these, machines kind of make it into market, and you can they all kind of settle. We could compare designs, philosophies, and pricing, and performance. I imagine would be very similar across all of them. But I think it'll make the second half of October and November pretty interesting in terms of notebook selections.
I like that thought. It's just, I love a new laptop. We should take a moment to thank our sponsors over at Wealthfront. You should be investing your money for the long term for you and your family's financial health. You don't want to run out of money when you don't want to work anymore, and you probably wondered how you should do it. Trying to do it yourself, especially the right way, is complex and time-consuming. The markets are complicated. Look, traditional advisors charge big fees that add up over time to 1 to 3% of what you got under management, plus hidden fees for transactions and changes in some cases. Wealthfront makes it easy for anyone to access world-class long-term investment management. You can get started investing today at a minimum of $500. You just sign up for an account at wealthfront.com. It takes minutes. It goes right to work monitoring your portfolios around the clock and taking action as soon as an opportunity arises. Doesn't matter if you're investing for retirement or a different long-end goal. Wealthfront automatically rebalances your portfolio and reinvests your dividends, all commission-free. Commissions add up, people. Percentages add up. Wealthfront software optimizes your investments for the best risk-adjusted return, net of taxes and fees. It's transparent and accessible. You can view all your accounts in one place, whether they're personal, joint, or retirement. You can see every trade that Wealthfront makes on your behalf in your dashboard, on your desktop, or right in their mobile app on your smartphone. With Wealthfront, you pay 0.25% a year That is cheap, people. 25 basis points, 0 commissions, no hidden fees. There are no additional charges for any Wealthfront services. They manage over $2.6 billion in client assets, and it's grown over 20 times in the past 2 years. Join Wealthfront. Start investing your money the right way today. For compliance purposes, I have to tell you that Wealthfront Incorporated is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are offered through Wealthfront Brokerage Corporation, member FINRA, and SIPC. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing in securities involves risks, and there is the possibility of losing money. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please visit wealthfront.com to read their full disclosure. So if you got all that, do yourself a favor. Go to wealthfront.com/twitch. That's wealthfront.com/TWiCH to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll see the customized allocation they recommended for your profile. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 free of charge for life. Claim your offer today at wealthfront.com/twitch. And for the rest of your life, your first $15,000 will be invested entirely free of charge. Check it out, people. Start thinking about your future, especially if you're younger. A little bit of savings now can be huge by the time you need it. Ladies and gentlemen, wealthfront.com/twitch. And we want to thank them for their support of This Week in Computer Hardware.
And I just want to congratulate you on a successful reading of the disclosure statement.
And we all have our skills, man.
I read through it and I was like, I don't know if I could get through that on first attempt without slipping up. But yeah, I followed along. You did great. You did great. I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much. Well, they said it had to be read exactly to make the lawyers happy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about keeping the lawyers happy. Roku 4, people. I was kind of excited about this. We talked about it a little bit on Tech Thing yesterday. We got one coming in for review. And I first of all, I want to point out, I can't remember if we talked about it last week. But, Amazon has essentially banned Chromecast and Apple TV from the store. I think, I assume as part of a power play because, they don't offer an optimized Prime experience. And I'm wondering, I'm a big Roku fan. I have a Roku 3 I use in my house. And I was laughing because that picture you're looking at right there, if you look, go back to the picture of the Roku 4. Go back to the picture of the Roku 4. Right? And if you look right down under the HO and choose, you'll see an Amazon Prime button next to the Netflix button.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what an optimized experience looks like for the people at Amazon. Personally, I think it's stupid of Amazon to block Chromecast and Apple TV sales.
It doesn't make any sense from them. Like, you got to be able to separate your online retail establishment versus your online services outlet, right? And that's clearly not what they did.
No, it was a peculiar decision even for them, especially because only, I guess, 1 in 5. I was told I read an analyst stated that only 1 in 5 Amazon customers are actually a Prime member, which means that it's interesting because I want to bring this up because first up, they're doing 60 depending on what you are looking at. It's like a HDMI 1.4a, so you're not doing full HDMI 2.0 on this. They did a bunch of really smart things. 802.11ac MIMO-based dual-band wireless. They left the Ethernet jack on there. 4K UHD, 1080p, upscales 720p to 1080p, upscales 1080p to 4K if you wanted to. 4K UHD, 60 frames per second, HEVC playback, but it's only 30 frames per second for YouTube VP9 playback, which I thought was kind of interesting. So basically it's also, I think it may simply be because VP9 I don't think is as efficient to unpack as some of the other stuff. Digital Plus 7.1 surround sound, pass-through, micro SD card, USB ports. The best thing about it, though, is probably if you scroll up a little bit, it's a big box, right? Because I guess they needed a whole bunch of stuff in there for 4K or wanted to dissipate the heat. But if you press the button on the top of the Roku 4 box, the remote sings to you. It beeps. It cries out in the darkness for help.
I like that a lot.
So you can find it. You're going to like it a lot more by the time your child is walking around and looking for remote controls.
That's a good point.
I'm a big fan of Roku's. 4K is a little early, but you know, the other thing that they came out with was the feeds, which originally were tied to movies that are in the theaters, and now they've opened it up to movies, television shows. If you are one of, you know, like never miss a Vin Diesel movie again, right? Because you subscribe to the Vin Diesel feed, and it will tell you all the other stuff. It seems to be in. Yeah, I haven't tested it yet. It's not going to be out until October 21st, but it seems that they are making a much broader effort to be inclusive in their search, because Shannon did a review of the Amazon Fire TV, the new one, you know, that you can talk to, and it's still very like paid Prime centric, which I find really frustrating, but seems to fit Amazon's model these days, which is probably a point where we can start talking about. Shannon also did a great review of the $50 Amazon Fire tablets on Tech Thing this week. She got all the new tablets in for testing. If you are not an Amazon Prime customer, these tablets are a complete waste of your money. They are certainly tablets. They will certainly work. But again, like previous Amazon Prime tablets, they're a little underpowered for their size. The screens on the larger tablets look fantastic. They look good. You know, the performance is not fantastic. It's acceptable. They play video. They're very much content consumer devices. They're not great for gaming. And the $50 one, there are very specific use scenarios. But I'm going to make you watch Tech Thing to find out about those. I don't know. Amazon, I don't know. It's also interesting because Amazon, of course, is sort of, you know, they're doing these fantastic things with Alexa. And from what Shannon said, like the Fire TV did a great job recognizing her voice and doing stuff. I'm just wondering, like, where Alexa and the tablets and the Fire TV are all going to become some sort of unified world. I don't know. It's a curious blend, and I'm kind of curious to see where they're going to go with it, especially in light of what basically amounts to, I'll say it, a pissing contest with Google and Apple, which I just don't think is particularly brilliant on their part, but I'm no Jeff Bezos and do not claim to be, so. Oh, my goodness. Star Wars Battlefront. Exciting? Unexciting?
No, this is pretty cool. So Star Wars Battlefront, built by the guys who do Battlefield. This is I think it's basically going to be an online multiplayer shooter. There's a single player element, but it's, from what I've seen in the alpha and beta so far, it's kind of more like a horde mode type single player experience. But what's really cool is that right now, starting today, going through Sunday, maybe into Monday, there's a public beta. So if you just go download, if you're on PC, you can download the client through Origin. You can download the game through Origin. And they're also doing free public betas on PS4 and Xbox One as well. So if you have any of those systems or you have a gaming PC, you can go download Battlefront beta for free now and play it throughout the weekend. I played a little bit of it yesterday. Maybe it was Tuesday. I don't remember exactly now. But there's only 2 maps in the multiplayer, but it is absolutely stunning looking. It really looks impressive. I was playing it on an EVGA GTX 980 Ti and an Asus G-Sync monitor at 25x14, and it played really smooth. I didn't have any performance issues. Obviously, that's the highest end single GPU you can get on the NVIDIA side, right? From a reasonable standpoint, $650. So you would hope that's the case, but it played well, and we haven't done any performance kind of testing evaluation. Some other people have online showing, you know, the Fury X is a little bit faster than the 980 Ti, and the 390X is a little bit faster than the 980, but it all looks pretty good. NVIDIA did come out with a new driver yesterday specifically for Star Wars Battlefront. If you're a first-person shooter fan, if you're a Star Wars fan, like I don't know exactly how the progression happens, but eventually, if you're really good, you get to play as Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker on the Hoth level, right? And I got killed by Darth Vader a couple times, and it was fun. I was okay with that. It was you know, you're sitting there, you're shooting normal stormtroopers, and all of a sudden, around the corner comes Darth Vader with the lightsaber, and he throws it at you and cuts you in half and stuff like that. So that's always pretty exciting. Yeah, exactly. But it's free and it's fun. And I would highly encourage you guys to check it out this weekend, because it looks like it's going to be a really good game. I hate to say things about that early. This is coming out, I think, in November. Like the full release will be in November, so we're not long from it. But like if you watch some of this gameplay that they're showing, like this is all actually how the game plays out and how it actually looks. It is that impressive looking. There's always stuff going on in the sky. Explosions look great. Even though, you know, you can see some Star Destroyers up there in the atmosphere, you don't interact with them directly, but it is cool to see them and all that stuff. So it's pretty neat. If you're a Star Wars fan at all, I think you'd really enjoy giving it a shot.
Even more so than looking around in a virtual 360 environment in Facebook.
Yes, quite a bit more. Yeah, quite a bit more.
Which, for some reason, reminds me the other thing that came out on the Windows 10 hardware day was the HoloLens Developers Edition, which is kind of priced in between the high-end stuff from Steam and the low-end stuff from Oculus, with an entry price of $3,000. Developer Edition, which will keep the riffraff out, but it'll also probably keep a lot of the smaller game designers out, which is kind of a bummer. But
yeah,
we'll see what that turns into.
Indeed.
We'll see. Whole Home. It's only been available to utilities until now. It's a home energy controller with a built-in teaching thermostat and energy display. It's really easy. It replaces your existing thermostat, connects to your Wi-Fi using your smartphone. It can connect to your Zigbee-enabled smart meter, providing with real-time electricity usage, which to me is really fascinating. If you can answer simple questions, what time do you get up on a typical day? The Setup Wizard is going to put you in control without ever having to look at the manual. Works with 95% of all heat pumps and conventional heating and cooling systems. And as soon as you install Whole Home, it will start minimizing your heating and cooling energy costs and show you how much you're saving in both dollars and kilowatt hours. I can only wish it would do something to manage the electricity consumption of my beloved dryer, because I'm constantly washing children's clothes, which Brian can probably kind of beginning to relate to. The energy screen shows your current electricity consumption and spending in dollars per hour. Just like a car speedometer shows miles per hour, Whole Home shows energy dollars per hour. It's like an energy speedometer for your home. The LEDs on the front respond to price changes. Easy to read color LEDs indicate when the cost of electricity is high, reminding you to avoid energy-intensive chores like doing the laundry, ironing, or running the dishwasher. Whole Home is more than a smart thermostat. It's the idea that it's going to monitor and help you manage the energy consumption of your entire home. Save energy and money. See what your energy use in real time looks like with Whole Home. Go to wholehome.com/twit to get your code and receive an exclusive 30% limited time discount. That's HOLHOM.com/twit. We want to thank Whole Home for their support of This Week in Computer Hardware. Cool.
Very interesting.
It is shipping to me right now. I will let you know how it works.
All right, sounds good.
I'll be able to watch with mortal terror as the dryer fires up and begins sucking down all the electricity in the East
That's
Bay.
really interesting. Yeah, like to see so for you it might be the dryer. For me, I have run the dishwasher more in the 3.5 months since my daughter has been alive than I have in my entire life before today.
It's nice to see you stepping up on the domestic front, Ryan.
Yeah.
It's about
it's usually
time,
running it half empty because all you have at the top shelf full of bottles and stuff, accessories that way. But it would be interesting to see what is, like, how much it goes up. How much am I spending per minute, per hour when that is running? That's pretty neat.
It's funny. Do you have tiered billing where it's lower at night and higher during the day?
We don't here, right? So in Kentucky, we don't have that restriction, right, where electricity is more expensive during the day than it is at night. But I know for many parts of the country, like where you live, that's definitely the case.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, well, it's funny. My city has its own electrical system, electrical service, and has for like 105 years. What they do is they do punitive billing, where you get like your first X number of kilowatts at this price, and then you get like another 20% at a 20% higher price, and everything over that is billed at double the base rate, which is irritating because I'm using, renewable energy, but I'm being punished for it by my electrical provider. Whatever.
Gotcha.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'll have to answer this tweet at Marco P. Gill says, I know you don't like 15-inch laptops, but curious if you would ever consider the Dell XPS 15, given its smaller footprint. Yeah, especially with 32 gigabytes of RAM. That would be pretty badass. I prefer smaller portable devices. I don't like full-size 15-inch laptops, MacBook, or anything running Windows, because I've, on the flip side, the longer I spend running on a 2560 by 1440 screen, and I spent like 6 months last year using a 4K monitor from Dell, the less I want to use the 1080p screen on a small laptop. So it may be time for me to break down and start looking at a larger laptop. Oh my goodness. So I went to start overclocking the Skylake in the machine that's right there. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, like, the automated stuff kind of works, which has been consistent since the Eufy Bio stuff came in. But it was funny for me to like go to download something to identify my processor speed, and realizing that CPU ID's Hardware Monitor Pro and CPU Z are like the last ones standing that are updated with any frequency.
Right.
And it's also been really interesting playing around with the Corsair water coolers and that crazy. Where is it? Oh, there it is. The Scythe air cooler,
that's a beast.
It's a beast. It's really good though. It does a really good job of sucking BTUs out of a processor. But we should talk. I probably usually bring that up because I've been kind of up to my eyeballs in building and taking apart PCs, and including destroying my Windows licensing because I don't know the difference between 2 and 1. But we'll talk about that next week. Sebastian did a write-up on the system he's building for testing cases and cooling. What was the big learning out of this? What was the big challenge on this one?
Essentially, there wasn't a huge challenge for it. He basically had come to realize that a lot of our case and chassis reviews kind of use disparate hardware, right? And so it made direct comparisons more difficult. So in order to kind of standardize that, we decided to, okay, let's just pick a couple of sets of hardware that makes sense for each individual form factor, and standardize on that kind of going forward for, at least 18 months, probably 24 months or beyond, right? And so if you look at it, we went with a Skylake processor, we went with the 6600K, not the 6700K. They both have similar TDPs. So in terms of wanting to get as much thermal work inside the case, that shouldn't be a problem there. We went with the R9 290X mostly because of its inefficiency, right? Because it uses a lot of power, produces a lot of heat. We're trying to test and stress cases and their thermal capability. And then we have two different motherboards. One is the ROG Maximus 8 Gene, which is a micro ATX motherboard. And so that would be the one you use in a full-size case, full-size ATX case, or a micro ATX case. You could obviously put that in there since you're just doing one video card and not a lot of other accessories. You can still get the same performance impact that you would with the full-size ATX, but that gives you a little bit more flexibility with the cases you can support with that. And then the Z170 Stinger from EVGA is a micro ATX, mini ITX Skylake capable motherboard, right? So that when we get those mini ITX chassis in, we can use the same processor and stuff like that in regards. Same GPU up in the air depending on that particular case. And then for the cooler, we have the Corsair H105, which is a dual 240 rad cooler, the H75, which is a single 120 rad, and we've got a couple of smaller air coolers, the Noctua L9 X65 CPU cooler, which is meant for mini ITX chassis. Same with the Fantech CPU cooler, right? So that gives us the ability to have a standardized cooling configuration when the Corsair coolers either won't fit or are very complex in how they fit. So expect him. He's going to go back and retest a bunch of cases because he has stacks and stacks of them in his basement, apparently, or his garage, one of those two. So he's going to reevaluate some of that stuff as we get these new cases in to kind of see how they hold up. But in relation to how that changes what you guys are doing, or what you are doing, I guess, with your Skylake stuff, how did that end up turning out? Have you had any issues with the configuration that you ended up going with?
No, I'd say the configurations run really well. The looking at handbrake rendering. What's ironic is it's not particularly friendly to overclocking, based on a lot of people's testing. But that said, even in the stock configuration, like I had to upgrade the BIOS to get the processor recognized properly, and it's it's only overclocking with the sort of onboard factory overclocking to like 4100 hertz, which is a little bit lower than I expected. But looking at that, I've doubled my rendering speed from like 50 frames per second to 100 frames per second on the machine, which is which is good. I can roll with that. So, I'm pretty happy about that. Probably going to add in another 16 gigabytes of RAM when I get Premiere installed on it. But I've got to wait on all that until I resolve my Windows 10. My Windows 10 activation, because I took a hard drive and reinstalled Windows 10 over that, then made a mistake in the activation process, which is mostly on me. But Microsoft's automated activation process is not really helping. I may actually end up losing the ability to lose the license, but that is probably my fault, because I said it was on 2 machines when it's on 1 machine, but there seems to be no recourse for that. But we will find out. It's amazing also how good the air coolers are compared to the liquid coolers. It's kind of amazing, actually. It's kind of amazing how good the air coolers are and how loud the liquid coolers are.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. We got in a couple of coolers here for some mini ITX system builds we were doing, and very impressed with the build quality of. We got in 2 different Noctua ones that are super small form factor, that 9X65, and then another one whose name model number I can't grasp at the time, but it's incredibly thin, like super low profile stuff, but still really able to get the job done. So, yeah, I think. I don't know. I think people are, now that the Skylake processors are finally available, as you found, and motherboards have been available for a long time. I think we'll see a lot of these types of upgrades, especially as you see the PC gaming release schedule of sorts into the holiday season looks pretty good. You've got Battlefront, you've got Fallout 4 coming out, and and several other games are going to be out between now and Christmas that will really need some of that processing power.
Processing power is good.
Yeah.
So from the unbelievably cool, crazy pants, forward-looking technology department, on-die water cooling, Jeremy wrote this up at PCPro.com, and I'm just going to read his paragraph. If we could pull that picture up, it is so crazy. These researchers are skipping the water block altogether and have made channels in the surface of the die itself for deionized water to flow through and cool the chip, the 28-nanometer Altera FPGA. They tested this cooling method had numerous channels cut into it, which were then sealed up with a layer of silicon with a flow rate of 147 milliliters per minute. They kept the chip to a comfortable 24 degrees Celsius, a mere 4 degrees higher than the temperature of the water and significantly lower than the 60 degrees Celsius the chip would run at using air cooling. Neither Hackaday nor PCPer encourage you to try to cut micron-sized channels in your brand new processor. However, we all hope to see this cooling technique incorporated into heat spreaders in future generations of processors. So props to Georgia Tech and their fluid channel cutting in the back of commercial silicon dies. 100 microns. How cool is that?
Now, I don't... The picture they have there that Jeremy included there doesn't show the rest of the requirements, and neither does the Hackaday story have it on there. But, like, what is the rest of the componentry necessary to keep that up and running? I'm trying to see if I click through here to the Georgia Tech story to see if they actually have a different photo of some kind. Not really.
It's probably hard to take pictures of 100 micron slots.
Yeah, but I mean, you still have water tubing going, instead of going to water block, it's going onto the die itself. So I mean, it's pretty cool looking. They have a slightly expanded photo of it, but yeah,
it's cool. Oh my goodness. So September is the month of laptop releases. November is the month of new laptop sales. We still don't know when the Apple TV is coming out. The Skylake processors are starting to come in volume. What else is exciting going on right now? And anything you can tease on PCPro.com?
Man, I keep looking around. We have so many different things in that kind of like picking one project to go with. I did just get in an MSI notebook with that full performance GTX 980 GPU in it. So I'm thinking I just might open that up and have an excuse to play some Star Wars Battlefront today. Actually, I can take that home and do it, right, as well. That's a good side.
Can't make it home yet, honey. I've got some work to do here at the office.
I got a lot of testing I have to get done.
The first place I'll look for your body is under the house.
Right. Yeah. I know tomorrow we'll see the full announcement of the Asus GX 700, which is the water-cooled laptop with the GTX 980 in it and all that other. I'm really excited to see kind of what Asus has done with that whole configuration option, like what it even means to have a water-cooled laptop. It seems pretty nuts to me, but I'm sure they'll have a lot of other kind of thin and light designs in their Skylake lineup too. So, like I said, we've got Asus tomorrow, Acer next Monday, Toshiba next Tuesday, and Lenovo the following Monday in terms of all of the releases of notebooks. We'll have plenty to talk about in the next couple of weeks in terms of that stuff. And it won't be very long. I'm looking through my emails that I'm getting in today. It should be very soon that we're getting in all of these different notebooks to compare to each other. It just worries me that maybe I don't know, how long have I had this XPS 13? I feel like I bought in a little too early now, but I guess that's always the case when you buy computer parts, right? You're always buying too early. There's always something better.
I'll help you. I'll take that XPS 13 off your hands.
Somebody on Twitter told me they'd buy it for me for $50 or $40 an expired Egg McMuffin coupon. I think is what
I can beat that price. I can beat that price with a stick. If I suddenly disappear, I was killed by a unicorn and a wolf.
You work in slightly different environments than I do. This is,
yes, I do.
So here's why. This is why So you're doing the smart thing I am. Your camera's always, you're looking into the mass of everything, right? Nobody can sneak up behind you in your configuration. I do the same thing. If Ken walked at me wearing a uniform costume, I would see it immediately as well. I'd be a little bit more worried, I think, than you were just then. But yeah.
Somewhere around here, there's a tomahawk. It's good for close quarter situations. And on that bright and cheerful note, hey, one of the things we talked about on TechLane I didn't mention is whether or not you can really trust your VPN, which I think varies a lot depending on whether you're talking about like hiding torrent files or protecting your life because you don't want to be beaten to death by angry guards in the service of a totalitarian government. Those are two radically different situations and are worth considering. But and yeah, crazy Amazon reviews. If you're wondering what that $50 Amazon tablet gives up to get the price down that low, we have the information for you. And how to play Blu-rays on Windows, which you can still do. No thanks to Microsoft. Not that I'm bitter about the whole Windows Media Center thing. And with that, we're going to call a close this episode of This Week in Computer Hardware. I'm Patrick Norton, at Patrick Norton on the Twitter. He's Ryan Shrout, at Ryan Shrout on the Twitter. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks.